Right, so we're 22 hours into the fast, and I'm going to break the fast at 11:30, so it'll be a 24-hour fast. Now, I was thinking about the beauty of a 24-hour fast, right? If you think about it, say you eat your last meal at 11:30, so 11:30 a.m. Now, I'm eating one meal a day at the moment, so that's quite a big meal. You eat at 11:30, you're full from the meal and you're satiated, especially if you're eating carnivore, so high fat and high protein. You're satiated by that meal for about 5 hours afterwards. So 11:30, so call it 12 o'clock. So at 5 p.m, you're still full. You're not hungry, and then you go to sleep. You don't go to sleep at 5, but that night you go to sleep. So for 5 hours of the fast, you're satiated by the food. You sleep for 8 hours of the fast, so you're not hungry then. So the actual time you're fasting on a 24-hour fast, it's not that long. It's not like you've got to endure 24 hours of not eating. You're satisfied by the carnivore meal, you're asleep, so there's only that other window that you've actually got to, that you can't eat. So I just thought it seems a lot of people that haven't tried fasting, a 24-hour fast seems difficult and seems like it would be really hard, but it's not actually a 24-hour fast. It's probably like a 10-hour fast by the time you've slept and you're not actually hungry. So I just thought that was interesting. You can get your head around a 24-hour fast and make it a lot easier. But one thing I have noticed is I've done longer fasts in the past, and you hear about autophagy being kind of optimal around 72 hours, so 3 days. And I wouldn't bother. I've got into the habit of trying to chase longer and longer fasts, but as long as you're losing weight, you're in autophagy because your body's using its own cells, and you can get that with a 24-hour fast. So I've found one meal a day plus a 24-hour fast seems to be the best option, and it's sustainable. It's not that hard. Before you know it, you're eating again. So that's the plan for today. I'm going to have one meal a day at 11:30. I like 11:30 because you eat your meal, by 12 o'clock you've kind of finished eating. Then you're still moving around, so movement aids digestion. It helps the food move through your body. So you're still moving around for the rest of the day. Then when you go to sleep, you're not digesting food. So when you go to sleep, you're not digesting food. Then you get a good fast overnight, wake up, and you still have that little bit in the morning before your first meal at 11:30. And I've been using it to use the analogy I spoke about yesterday. You've got your cupboard full of food, and you've got that tin of beans right at the back that never gets used. I've been kind of mentally framing it like this in my mind. That fasting window, so that time from when I wake up till 11:30, it's like a spring cleaning session. So you can sort that tin of beans out, and that's what's happening because you're in autophagy. Your body is recycling old cells. So I'll go for a long walk, mindful of the fact that I don't have any energy in the body. So this walk is using stored energy and broken cells. And you feel like you're spring cleaning. So that's kind of the mindset I have, and I'm mindful of that. And then I'll do stretching. So it's a very valuable time to use your fasted window. It's going to have a totally different effect. Say you do stretching. I have a tendency, because I've been overweight for a long time, or I was overweight, I roll the shoulders, so I have kind of a poor posture, a forward, the opposite of thoracic extension, so opening up. So what I do to counteract that is, while I'm in the fasted state, I will do certain stretches, thoracic extension and foam rolling and things like that. You probably notice one of my shoulders is lower as well. I had an injury on a BMX, a bike, fell on my shoulder. So there's a lot of imbalances. And if you have a massive meal and then do some stretches, it's not going to have the same effect. So you're in that fasted state. You can do stretches, meditation, and heal certain things because your body's in that healing state anyway. So when you're fasting, use that time wisely, and a fasted walk is great. So today's plan, one meal, it's going to be 750 grams of ground beef, 3 egg yolks, and cooked in tallow. So, and then I've got 10 grams of heart, 10 grams of liver. So a very simple one. Calories for the day probably going to be around 2,200. So I was in a calorie deficit yesterday. My basal metabolic rate is about 2,400. So I'm still in a slight calorie deficit, but I'm not going mad. I have a tendency when something works, like yesterday was a good day, you want to kind of double down and overdo it. But because this is a longevity thing, we're trying to do this for the long term. Today is going to be quite a big meal. It's going to be almost at my maintenance calories, still a slight deficit, and then it's only a 1 meal a day, so you've got the 24-hour fast. So still going to work. I am going to the gym, but I'm not training. I don't know if I've actually got it in me to do this, because last time I said that. My friends go on a Friday. They only train once a week now because of the Mike Mentzer method. And I said, yeah, I'll come, but I'm not training. And then his dad was there, and I ended up lifting heavier than I would normally do because I ego lifted, because he challenged me to lift the whole stack. So whether or not I'll stick to that, but ideally I won't train, because when I'm trying to cut, training doesn't help. It just increases appetite, although it is a larger meal day. But then this is the mindset I get into. I think, well, I'm eating a lot more today, so it'll be all right. And then I eat fruit and then go off the carnivore thing. So yeah, I won't do that. I'm going to not train. One meal. The first part of that meal is going to be raw. So I'm eating raw heart, liver, beef mince and 1 raw egg yolk. Then the rest of it will just be cooked mince. So something I have noticed. So the kind of main points are a 24-hour fast is attainable. It's not that difficult, especially if you're in ketosis. You're not going to be hungry, and the benefits are massive. And you've got to be mindful that you're in a fast. So you wake up in the morning, and a walk fasted is different to a walk after you've just eaten. Both are beneficial, but they're beneficial for different reasons. So if you've eaten a meal that's got a load of carbs in it, a walk afterwards is going to help lower the insulin spike and the glucose spike. A fasted walk is going to tap into stored body fat because you don't have fuel in the body. So there's two different things. And any type of movement is going to help digestion, because digestion physically moves through the body, and you've got lymphatic fluid that is mobilized when you move about. So movement, going for a walk, is always beneficial, especially if you're out in nature like this. You get natural sunlight in your eyes, you're being exposed to the colours that are, this isn't like when you walk for a supermarket, everything's bright colours, and you scroll through your phone, it's all bright colours. But pretty much everything, if you look in the background, even this is abnormally, this is triggering some sort of response in me. I think this is a dead animal and I should be eating it like a steak. Do you know what I mean? This is blood. Whereas if you look around, everything's basically green. So just nature, getting back to nature, the opposite of like our man-made fabricated world. So it's just good to spend time in nature. But something I have noticed is if you are trying to cut, you might not have implemented this, and it's abdominal massage. And I find I can have 2 days exactly the same. One is a strict carnivore day where I eat 2,000 calories strict carnivore. The other is a strict carnivore day where I eat 2,000 calories strict carnivore and do abs massage. I won't lose any weight overnight with this one, but I will with this one. And you'd think, well, you're still in ketosis, you're still in autophagy, you're in a calorie deficit, whatever. It's all the same, but the only variable was an abdominal massage. And there's probably science behind this, but my bro science is that, actually this isn't bro science, but you store stress in the body. And you know this because when you're stressed, a lot of people overeat. So it's stored in the stomach. You're in a stressful situation, you overeat, and it actually helps, but it stores belly fat, right? So the opposite of that is when you go into a calorie deficit or you're doing any kind of cut, you're reversing that process. So at some point you were stressed and you overate, and you've done that over a sustained period of time. Now you're fat. So the opposite is you have to, and that stress is stored in the stomach and it's physically there. You can see it. You can see a fat person and go, they probably ate because they were stressed. Now to reverse that, the reason it's hard to cut is because as soon as you stop eating, you feel that stress again. So you feel the stress you're currently dealing with, plus the stress that you tried to deal with before by overeating. And the only way I've found to solve that is through meditation and through abdominal massage, because the stress was stored in the stomach and now you're actually releasing it. So that seems a bit bro sciencey and a bit not very technical, but it's been my experience. And I mean, Dr. Berg spoke about it. It is actually a thing that you need to abdominal massage to release stress. And if I struggle to sleep when I'm in a calorie deficit or on a carnivore diet, I'll do an abdominal massage or sitting meditation, and both lower cortisol to the point where you can sleep. And one thing I noticed is I've been trying to implement the practice, especially before going to bed, of not having any thoughts. Because if you've always got constantly thinking about things you've got to do and stresses, not even stresses, just, well, planning out, thinking about future, thinking about the past, you don't tend to have as restful sleep and good dreams. And it's the dreams that rewire your brain. So I try and have no thoughts. And I was doing this yesterday. I did the abdominal massage. And normally I'll lay there and I'll kind of think about what my plan is for tomorrow, or what I'm going to say on this video, or what I'm going to train at the gym. And I was like, right, you should probably be doing this with no thoughts. So I'm in autophagy. My dog eating glass again, not ideal. So I'm in autophagy, I'm in ketosis. You've got the mental clarity associated with a carnivore diet. And I was laying there thinking, you should probably be doing this with no thoughts, right? So I've got this concrete block kind of thing that I use to massage my abs. And you can also use a basketball. You lay over the basketball. I've done videos on this before. So then I was mindful, and you do it in a certain direction. So you start down here and then work your way round, because that's the way the digestive system moves through the body. So I'm laying there, no thoughts, doing this abdominal massage. And I realised that depending on where I pushed, kind of where I massaged the abdomen, memories would come up. And there was no reason for me to think, there was no like trigger, because normally when you're having thoughts and you're not actively being mindful and removing thoughts, you think along a certain line. Like I've got my dog here and I'm thinking, what's she eating? Is she eating glass? And then I would think, well, I threw the glass over there, maybe she'll, like your thoughts carry on from one another, and then you're thinking, oh, I need to get her dog food. And then you're thinking, there's a reason that you have these thoughts. So I'm doing this abdominal massage and I'll get a thought pop in that was from about 10 years ago that has nothing to do with anything I'm doing at the moment. And it's because it's stored, right? So that would have been a slightly stressful thing at the time. At that time I was overeating to kind of compensate for the stress. And I've just released it and it comes to mind. And there are neurons in your stomach and your brain, so they communicate with each other through the gut-brain axis. So this makes perfect sense to me, but I've never actually heard anyone talk about it. So you massage the abdomen, you're in a fasted state, so you're not using food as a stress management, and then all of a sudden you get that thought. And I'll just try and think of an example. So I started this new job. It was my first job out of school, and it was at quite a high-end restaurant. And I didn't realise at the time, because I didn't really know there was a word for it, but I was really socially anxious. And I couldn't understand why. I was very fearful before starting my shift. And this one day I went in and I took over this customer's like bowl of soup and spilt it on the table. And that was a stressful thing for me. And while I was massaging my abdomen, that just come up. It was like just the image of me spilling that soup on his bowl. So at the time, that was obviously quite traumatic. And then I would have just eaten something because I was working in a kitchen and the chef would sort me out with food. So that's now been stored. That's in my stomach, stored as fat or some muscular tension, whatever it is. And in doing the abs massage, it's released that. And then I was mindful, I was like, oh, that's interesting. Move over to the right a bit, do the next spot. And if you really have no thought, something else pops up. And it's a totally different situation. And then I was just watching these thoughts. And then I would stop, I would like take the pressure off and just lay there for a bit. No thoughts. Go again, and then these thoughts come up. And it's very interesting. You can actually tell what you're resolving. So I would call this trauma or stress. And this is why you're fat. Do you know what I mean? So you might use other things as your coping mechanism. So maybe you smoke. But in this way, try the abdominal massage and actually be mindful of what's coming up. And I went all the way around and every spot had a different thing. So like, there was this other job and there was this girl I worked with, and then boom, the memory of that, like some awkward thing that happened. And then you just go around, and it was very interesting and it's quite liberating. It's like the analogy of going in the cupboard and you've got the old tins of beans out of date. These memories and these experiences are out of date. They're not in the present moment, but they've been stored in belly fat. Now that sounds proper bro science. You might not be ready to hear that. You'd think belly fat is literally just calories stored away. But I would argue that there's more to it than that, and it's been my experience. So that might be something worth trying. If you're doing everything right on the carnivore diet or whatever protocol, you're in a calorie deficit and you're not losing weight, this is probably why you need to do abdominal massage. I just found that very interesting. So anyway, yeah, I'm going to go eat my one meal today and then try and not train while I'm at the gym. And you might be thinking, well, why go to the gym if you're not going to train? I like the social aspect of it. Done. I've rambled this one. Have a good day. Speak to you tomorrow.